All right, everybody. Hello. Welcome to another edition of the ECL pre-review thing with myself, OrnLu, Roach, who now has something of a webcam,
Hey guys.
still in the process of figuring out, and of course, our guest for this episode will be ZUPPI from Team Suomi. How you doing, man?
Hi, I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me here tonight.
Yeah, glad you could be here. So, as it happens, we haven't had the podcast for a little while just because with all of the craziness going on with the holidays and then KOTD2 and then NAC2, it's
And in
been,
between the Escape gaming event.
yeah, exactly. So everything's been kind of put on hold. So here we're going to go back to the two East Asia stages, talk about what happened there, interview ZUPPI a little bit, and then move on to Southeast Asia. Sound good?
Wonderful. By the way, we will also not talk for any viewers that have seen them already, and we would hope that you don't spoil anything of round 2 and round 3 of the Southeast Asia 1v1 when we talk about it later. We will try to keep it spoiler free so that people who want to spectate it live on Saturday on this channel here won't get spoiled, right? So we will try to keep that in mind, and we'll hope that the chat will do the same. So with that, let's go into the East Asia 2v2 recap. It's been some time since then.
It's been a while. We're gonna try and do something here. We're gonna having to oops, that's OBS. Sorry, kind of having to invent stuff on the fly, but hopefully it all works out. You can see the bracket right here. Got of course Suomi ended up winning, which is part of the reason why we have ZUPPI here. And ZUPPI was not playing himself though. We did have the Max and Vles. Any thoughts, ZUPPI, on why these two players in particular? Because they play a lot of 2v2s all the time, it seems.
I like why we chose that pairing for this tournament.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, obviously, probably like me and Max and Wilnes and Max, we are the best two pairings that we have, and me and Max already played, and then we are left with the second one. So obviously we want to put our best on the game and get some points. So.
Is there any...
So, no other reason than that.
Do you have any strategic things going on where you try to maybe have your best teams first and then later on have the, in quotation marks, weaker teams play? Or are you actually... Is there any strategy, or are you just trying, yeah, to go with the best team that you have at the time?
ZUPPI?
Sorry, I missed that question. It was lagging for me.
Oh, okay. So for the viewers in chat, ZUPPI seems to have some internet delay problems, so we might have to repeat some of the questions for him. So I was asking if you, if there's any strategic thought going into when you pick which team to play, or if you're just trying to pick the strongest team at the time and have the, in quotation mark, weaker options later in the tournament, or are you trying to predict that your opponents might go for a stronger or weaker 2v2 setup, and you will try to match that with your own players?
Well, we don't really think about when it came to 2 against 2, we didn't really think about who our opponents would put to play the games. But yeah, we would think like what kind of maps are in the map pool, and what like who the maps with the best and who can perform the best. So yeah, obviously we thought that like me and Max would do best in the first 2v2, and then Viles and Max would do better in the second.
So,
Okay.
since we're kind of on the topic of maps and why you pick them and pick players for specific maps, why did you guys feel like, or why was East Asia so strong for Suomi? What about the maps really sort of clicked with you guys? Because obviously this has kind of been your breakout stage in ECL.
Sorry, I missed the question again. Something about the maps.
Yeah.
I think the video is really lagging it from me in Discord.
So, Roach, you can turn off screen share for now since we're looking at the brackets.
All right. Yeah, I guess so.
Hopefully that will help.
Yeah, hopefully that will help too.
Okay.
Yeah,
so,
should be fine now.
Okay, so ZUPPI, what about the East Asia maps do you think made Suomi so successful? Like, why did you guys do so well on these maps?
I don't think the maps are the reason for that. Probably more like how we approach the games and how we were able to plan for the games and how we prepared for the games. Like I think we have had like more serious approach than we had before in the beginning of the tournament.
Okay, when it comes down to motivation or how you prepared for the games.
Well, not motivation. Like we were obviously motivated from the beginning, and we have been aiming for the top 2 spot.
Yep.
And probably like we have been talking a lot, also practicing against the AI, doing build order practice, stuff like that, and also talking how to like turn these tight games to victories, which probably was something that we were lacking before.
Yeah, certainly. That is something I noticed in your earlier gameplay, especially. Even going back to earlier tournaments like BOA. But yeah, definitely you guys seem a lot better at closing out games, I guess would be one way of saying it. So that's something that you were specifically addressing?
Yeah, definitely. Like we are talking about like what would be the turning point of the game, and we were talking about the games that we lost and what we could have done different in order to win, because like usually the game is going quite even, and then at one point you are able to get a small advantage which you ride on to win the game.
So what did make you prepare better or more at this point? Was it just that you realized, okay, the end of the tournament is getting closer, we need to finally make some points to get to top 2, or was there, what was the reason the preparation wasn't there from the start right away?
Like we prepared in the start and we practiced a lot, but maybe like the quality of practice and preparation has gotten better on the run. Like now we are focusing on the right things, I would say.
Okay.
That's definitely quite good, and it's definitely showing in results certainly so far. Yeah, I mean, I think that as a team, collectively, you guys are looking a lot stronger. Obviously, winning the 2 most recent stages. Notably, though, between you and Brazil, or Brazucas, formerly LOS, do you think that your degree of preparation is why, like, both of you, were kind of expected to do really well after the Nations Cup performance, but obviously you guys have really started doing well. Brazil hasn't. They almost beat you in the 2v2, or they beat the Max and Veles on the 2v2, but do you think that it's just a matter of preparation and, how they're looking at how you guys are looking at the game right now compared to them?
Well, I would say that the games can go either way. Like every series of the tournament, they are super close and each team can win, but just in the long run, the most consistent ones win more. I don't know how the Brazilians are preparing, for example, but I haven't really seen them playing that much as a team in Woodley, I would say.
Yeah, certainly. I haven't really
Mm.
seen a whole lot of that either. Um, but as the 2v2 was quite a while ago, and our wonderful guest ZUPPI didn't play in it, is, anything else you wanted to add, Roach, before we moved on to the 4v4?
Well, not exactly. I guess as you talked about Brazucas, we can say that they were as close as they ever got to getting to the finals. If I remember correctly, they were up 2-0 against Suomi there, but it just wasn't enough. So, well, let's see what they can bring in the future. But yeah, I think we can go on to the East Asia 4v4 recap.
And I think I got it. Yeah, bracket's still there.
Wonderful.
So, just right off the bat, ZUPPI, what is your team's approach when it comes to 4v4s? Like, does every person on the team have a specific role that they play? As far as like civilizations you pick or like what strategies they go for in any given map? Like, what's your approach to like the big team games here?
Well, yeah. Well, obviously there are some roles that each one plays, like you can see from the games. Well, people can probably see that Max is usually playing like he's our hard hitter. Like we try to play the game and plan the game so that he will have a like easier time going for the imp here, and he's a good player on imp and his decision making and everything. So he will do the best on that role, I would say. And then we have Ruben Stock, and he's always doing some crazy stuff, trying to wreak some havoc. And me and Ville, we are sort of like one is playing support and one is playing the like second hard hitter style, and it changes depending on the map.
Talking about wreaking havoc, I guess one game comes to mind. So if players didn't watch that in the AM versus Suomi semifinal on Chaos Pit, we had Ruben Stock on Teutons and going for the double or triple TC drops on your opponents there. I get that must have been a prepared strategy, right? I mean, you picked Teutons for it, I guess, and went for it, or was it more like a spur of the moment because he was on the flank and you thought,
no, it was 100% prepared.
Yeah.
And we were talking about like how we will continue from that, like how we would, like I would go and play feudal and more or less sacrifice my ego to make some army, and then try to get Max and Villes on Castle Age. Yeah, it pretty much went like we planned, I would say.
All right. Is it? I mean, it's a very high risk, high reward strategy. In that game, it worked out pretty well because Roomstock managed to, as I said before, drop TCs on Hera and Hard and MBL, right? On all of those three players. And as I said, it's kind of high risk, high reward. Why not, for example, go for Koreans like IM did and try to go for a tower rush there?
We're thinking that they would not really expect anything like that. Like Teutons, like why we picked Teutons was like first, if we pick persons, they might expect that coming. And the second reason that Teutons, like the TC shoots more arrows, so it would win the TC war.
Yeah.
So it was kinda. I would say that the Teuton pick was saying that okay, he's going tower rush.
Yeah, I remember
So
casting the game live, and I'm like, Teutons. That's a very odd pick here. I believe you guys in that game were the only team to ever pick Teutons outside of when they were in the Civ pool in the tournament so far. So I thought it was okay. You're going to go for some crazy tower rush, but obviously Rubenstock he took it one step further. Was that something that was designed specifically to deal with AM, or was that just something for the map?
yeah, it was something for the map, and we actually they played some RDS League finals, I think, with the Veliet team, Ruben and Max. They were playing for them, and they did it once
Mm-hmm.
in the finals as well. Like I don't think many people saw it. So, for example, if AM would have watched that game, they probably would have known what is coming.
I think there was also the Nomad 2v2 tournament, right? In one of the games, I think Rubenstock went all over the map, dropping TCs everywhere as well.
Yeah, yeah, but I think it was more like he fucked up and then he tried to do it.
Yeah, okay. Good
That's
point.
fair. That's fair. So if the max is the quote unquote carry, and Rubenstock makes the game a mess, what would you say that you and Valessa do? Like, what do you guys? What are your guys' roles in like a 4v4?
Mm. Well, it's hard to say. Like I think we have kind of similar roles with less. Like we, well, yeah, it's hard to explain. I'm not really sure. Like we don't do any crazy stuff. We just play solid. We yeah, try to play steady.
So
Yeah,
it's more of a okay, you're gonna play quote unquote standard, whereas Rubenstock will either go more aggressive and then into a sling or whatever, and then the max is going to be greedy so he can get to the late game, and then you and Valess are just kind of like the anchors of standard play to keep everybody alive.
yeah, well, yeah, that's well said. So I was thinking something like that, but couldn't put it in the words.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
doing it
great
for
job.
me all the time as well.
So speaking of team roles and stuff like that, slinging has obviously been a very controversial but prevalent aspect of the team game meta for quite a while. In my mind, I'm thinking back to Mount Fuji in the 4v4, where you guys did a triple sling onto the max as Goths. Like, just sort of the epitome of just the sling meta. What are your thoughts on the sling meta in team games?
Hmm. Well, to be honest, I don't like it. I have been talking against it since what 2010, even before.
Okay.
But yeah, as long as it's not banned on certain maps, it's the go-to strategy because of the how the maps are made. Like in the, for example, in the Mount Fuji, if you control the middle, you will win the game. So
Hmm.
what's the best way to control the middle? Sling. And if you don't sling against that, you will lose because you can't go to the mid.
Would you agree that you in secret, you guys in secret, do use a sling strategy in the best possible way or the most fleshed out way? Because I feel like, from what I remember, for example, that AM yeah, didn't do the all-in sling that you did, for example, on Mount Fuji, and then they slung against you on Mongolia, and it didn't really work out. While you guys in secret, it always seems to, most of the time, seems to work out, right? Unless you're slinging against each other. Would you agree with that, or do you feel like you're comfortable in those situations as a team, slinging?
Mm. I think we have been successful in like setting the goals for the map, like what we want to achieve with the sling and how we want to play and what is the follow up. So we don't just blindly go slinging for the sake of slinging. we want to achieve something and
All right, yeah.
choose the sling to do.
Yeah, I think that's very clear in just watching and analyzing Suomi's games, where more than almost any other team, other than maybe Secret, you guys really seem to go in with a plan, and obviously slinging is going to be a common part of that because it's just kind of broken, but it doesn't. It definitely seems very sort of thought out. Do you think that you're saying that it's sometimes just essential because of the maps? What aspects of a map do you think are most sort of pigeonholing your strategy into slinging?
Like, yeah, for example, Mount Fuji, when all the gold and stone is in the middle of the map. Also, like Gold Rush, or I don't know, I don't remember all the maps right now what we have played,
Mongolia,
but
Steppe, Salt Marsh, some of the more common maps
yeah,
played.
well, we have, yeah, well, we have slung in almost every map in these recent tournaments. It's just with the sling you can gain such a big advantage at one
Hmm.
point, and then you, well, obviously you can't just right away kill the other team with the sling, but you will get such a big advantage that you will just ride to the end of the game, and in the end you will win because of the small advantage you gain.
So do you think when AM used Sling against you in Mongolia, it was just the wrong map or to use it because it was easier to wall, or was it not the best execution there?
I don't think they had ever even thought about picking chords and slinging that. Like they did something, I don't know, out of panic or desperation or something. Because in the Mount Fuji, we had the last sieve pick and we saved it for the max, and then we, because they took Mayans, we wanted chords,
Hmm.
and it was something we prepared for Mayans especially. And then they lost. They used Indians, Slavs, Mayans, and we just used some shit sieves, and we had such superior sieves for the Mongolia. So I guess they just tried to do something.
All right, yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
So more reacting to how you played the game before than anything else.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it seems like AM perhaps is just less about prepared strategies, especially when it comes to slinging, and they just kind of want to play a sort of standard game and just kind of, use that on almost every map. Do you think that the sling meta hurts AM and or potentially other teams, and then conversely helps teams that are more preparation focused like you?
Well, it's hard to say. Like they should just accept that if they want to do well in team game tournaments, they need to prepare and they need to sling, and a well executed sling in a like well planned sling will most likely win in any map. And I don't really like it, but now we are aiming for the result, so we just got to, we
So
have to do what we have to do.
as a follow up to that, personally, if you could change some aspect about slinging to make it less overpowered, less just dominating every sort of team game meta, do you think there's a way of doing it without just banning slinging entirely?
Hard to say. Like how much more can you nerf it? Like the taxes. Well, I guess you can add the tax, but still, it's hard to say. I would want to play one tournament with singing ban complete.
So just in the tournament rules, you're just not allowed to tribute your teammates any resources?
Yeah, not in feudal or castle age.
Yeah, okay, so only Imperial Age.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I guess there are quite a few people that actually agree with that as well. I think Neely is a big fan of that. I think he did it before in his Let Your Teammate Die tournament. where the teams didn't spawn together, right?
Yeah.
Well, in the end, you did win the finals against Secret. Actually, I think that game on Mount Fuji, the Sling game, was actually quite interesting. But yeah, it would be nice if that was one game that Sling was used out of, I don't know, 20 maybe. Not something that happens all the time. But then where you did win your second stage in a row, and suddenly that got you a lot of points and got you a lot further ahead in the standings, and you're now it is visible that you are competing with SY, Frantic, and AM for the second spot there. So
There we go.
what do you think? Who do you think? Obviously, at the moment, SY is further ahead, and then Frantic, then we have you guys, and then AM. So you think all of those teams could take the second spot? Do you think anyone can still get Secret out of the first position there?
Well, Secret has already probably secured the first place, but yeah, the second place is still open. Anything can happen.
So
Okay.
out of SY Frantic, yourselves, and AM, do you think that you guys have the best shot going forward with all of your momentum from these previous rounds, or do you think one of those other three teams is going to give you a lot of trouble?
Well, they will give us a lot of trouble, but we are confident that we can make it. Like we have been aiming for that from the beginning of the tournament, which was disappointing for us. I mean the start, but now we are back on the track and expect to keep going.
So, do you think that you said that the maps weren't a huge part about your victory recently, and it was more of just your preparation? Just something that I noticed in doing my data analysis from East Asia is that the map Steppe was picked in every single round in both events. So obviously you guys picked it in every single game, and it was literally played 100% of the time, with the Chinese being played by both teams 100% of the time. Like, why? What's up with Steppe?
Well, I think people enjoy playing that map, at least I do, and everybody's feeling that they have a nice chance, and it's kind of standard. There's no gimmicks, I would say. Yeah, I think it's just a fun map to play, and everybody thinks they're good on it.
Okay, I guess so.
But for instance, in the Middle East stage, yeah, like we saw Arabia, but not in every single series. So it's not like the standard maps are always like the most popular. Though of course, the more standard the map, I feel like the more popular it is. But is it just most teams prefer to play like a straight up game most of the time on like a more comfortable map?
Yeah, and it also depends like what other maps you have in the pool. Like in the East Asia, we decided to permaban twin paddles every game because it's such a complicated map and we didn't practice at all on that map, so we just banned. And yeah,
Okay, so basically, Steppe was the most, or one of the more standard maps in the map pool. While, for example, when we had Arabia in the map pool, there were other maps that you preferred more to play than Arabia.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that was, as memory serves, back in Middle East it was Dry River and Age of Sling the Indians, which you guys were very good at. Just, slinging the max and then just kind of, snowballing it from there. I remember that's like, I think, the first time you beat Secret so far in ECL. And actually, come to think of it, going like throughout most of the recent ECL stages, it's been you against Secret, where you've just been edging out Secret. Literally, you won 3-2 against Secret in the last 2 rounds of ECL.
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
what do you think matching up against Secret's like?
Well, when we are trying to plan against them, we always try to come up with something surprising, like try to get some surprising tactics, so we get the edge on some.
Okay, especially against Secret or against other teams in general, or what would be your approach to compare your approach to of preparation for Secret to other teams? Is there a big difference how you approach them, or?
It's definitely different. Like against certain teams, we just think like how would we play it like most optimal way, and
Mhm.
how to survive the early game, and then just go on and roll on the late game. And we feel confident on that style, and then we try to plan for, I think, some teams.
So it's I think it's interesting that you mentioned that you're about surviving the early game and getting into the late game. I think on paper most viewers would say that you are one of, if not the most late game oriented teams. Do you feel like once you get to the late game without, somebody being half dead, that you guys will have a better shot than against every other team in the tournament?
We are confident against anyone in the late game. Sure.
Okay, so is there any team you feel like you struggle more to get there? For example, let's say Frantic is going more aggressive against you, or is there any team you feel like you have trouble preparing? You're not really quite sure what to do against them?
We haven't faced Frantic yet in this tournament in the team games, but
Oh,
they
that's
are one of
interesting.
the teams that they are really aggressive. I would say SY as well, and AM maybe.
Yeah, it's funny because I think you're correct in that those are three of the most aggressive teams, but it's like it's different types of aggression, right? I feel like with AM it's the standard quote unquote game where they're just trying to use
Yeah,
units and just have everyone play like a more mechanically sound game of Age of Empires, but going aggressive. Whereas Frantic's
Maybe
obviously
more
like about all the crazy towers and stuff.
an AM may be more focused on Castle Age as well, right?
Yeah.
yeah, and then what you said is right, and also then SY is using Sling more
Hmm.
than the other two teams.
Yeah, I think that is definitely a good representation of how they play. Um, of those three styles, is there anything that you feel like you would struggle more against than others or feel better against?
Mm. Well, we have not faced Frantic yet, but I would think that like their Frantic style could throw like really make us struggle against them. Like how we played the Chinese teams before in the previous tournaments, we have always had some troubles with crazy accuracy.
Okay, yes. Thinking back to Nations Cup, for example.
Yeah, for example.
So, for preparation for example, you're preparing for the, sorry, for the East Asia 4v4, and obviously you don't have enough players to practice a 4v4. So I guess you're practicing with other teams for that. Do you have any preference? Are you basically preparing against anyone who's on at the time, or are you actually trying to get practice in with a specific team?
Well, we look at the brackets and who is on the other side of the bracket, and then we ask them for the practice games. Mostly we have been playing with Secret, SY, and AM, I would say.
All right.
Any reason those teams in particular? Just because they're the other top teams?
More because it's been easy to schedule the games with them, and then we just pick one team from the other side of the bracket and try to get games with them. Just it has been easy with them to schedule.
Okay.
That's it.
Do you feel like it's for you guys would be better to practice with secret in particular because you say okay, it would be best to obviously for you guys it would be best. It won't be possible all the time, but it would be best to be in the final against secret all the time, so you guys get points and in the best case scenario win the whole thing, and then secrets gets the second most amount of points, so you can get second place while secret still gets first. Or so are you saying okay, let's practice, it's better to practice with secret, or it's just focusing on each stage and say let's practice with someone from the different side of the bracket?
Yeah, we want to practice with from someone from the different side of the bracket, and it would be nice to play like 2 or 3 different teams so we can test our tactics a little bit and tweak them and see what works and what not.
Okay.
But after the first 2 rounds, there's not really nobody to practice with, so it's mostly like talking and preparing and maybe practicing some build orders against the bots and the
Okay.
follow-ups and stuff like that.
So obviously you don't need to divulge any scrim strats or stuff like that, but in your your scrim games with other teams, obviously the games are password protected. Is this like where teams tend to try out experimental stuff on each other, or is there like a specific like something you're trying to keep hidden from other teams or anything like that?
Yeah, like for some maps, like I'm sure every team has an idea how to play certain maps, and then they will try that style against other teams, and they see if it works or not, and they tweak something, and of course they steal something from the other team as well. But yeah, I would say that we are not showing everything on the practice matches.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense because especially, I mean, even if you're on the other side of the bracket from them, you're going to want to face them in the finals eventually, right? So you don't want to reveal everything.
Yeah, and if they practice with our next opponent and they try that tactic, like the strategies, they can leak to the next opponents, and that's something we don't want.
Do you think the way your the civ picking and map picking for ECL works makes it easier to prepare, or is it a lot? Because earlier you, for example, said you didn't even focus on preparing for twin pawns, right?
Yeah.
Because it was too complicated. So are you? Is it just too much to prepare for everything in detail? So you try to ban those maps, or are you saying okay, in some rounds it's actually possible to prepare for everything?
Yeah, but yeah, I would say it's impossible to prepare for everything. And you always have to think about the civs and in what order you play the maps and what civs you pick and so on. So it's easier to prepare if you just ban one map completely.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I guess a related question is, what do you think of the ECL like map ban system and civ picking system, especially because a lot of different tournaments use a lot of different styles, I guess, of civ drafting and map picking. What do you think of ECLs in particular?
I think it's fine. We believe that like being behind in points is like you have slight advantage in the team games because you get to pick the last civ and you can prepare something in surprise. But yeah, I think it's kind of fair.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
So are you trying to with the map system trying to pick specific maps against certain teams? Are you trying to counter a team with picking a certain map, or are you more trying to say, okay, we will use some of the map, just some of the maps, it doesn't really matter, but you will more try to prepare a certain strategy on the map to counter your opponent?
Yeah, well, yeah. Obviously, we want to choose the map we feel we have the best chances on, that fits our style the best, and where we have the best strategy or clear strategy that we both like. We want to pick that first user. Or, yeah, well, it depends.
Okay, so it's more about picking the maps you feel comfortable on and then find the best strategy than trying to pick a map that your opponent is less familiar with.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
So yeah, this is interesting. I'm not really sure, obviously, as an outside observer, how each of the teams go about this sort of preparation, but it's cool to get that sort of glimpse into the into how you guys go about preparing for this. So speaking more generally, moving forward, you say you feel confident that you guys have what it takes to make it to the land finals. Do you think that you're going to be able to maintain this momentum and surpass SY and Frantic and stay ahead of AM?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you think that you guys have better prep and teamwork, or?
Excuse me?
Do you think you guys just have better preparation and teamwork, and now that you guys are getting the best, I guess, preparation, now you think that just your raw skill as a team is going to just be superior to those other three teams?
Well, hopefully in the team game tournaments, I think we have figure out the roles for the players, how we want to play, how we want to practice and prepare, and what sort of style we want to play, and everything is kind of clicking. I mean, at least it was clicking in the last two tournaments, and that's something good we can keep building on.
So looking at the standings at the moment and comparing it to what you expected before the tournament started, are you surprised by any of the results? Is it basically at the moment as you expected the tournament to go? Were you surprised by any performances or the lack of performance of any teams?
To be honest, I'm a bit surprised that it's been... Well, actually, no. Well, yeah, I've been surprised that the Brazilians are not doing well in the tournament. They were super strong in the Nations Cup, and I thought they would carry on that momentum and perform well. And now they have even breaking up, so I don't know what's going on with them. So that's definitely a big surprise for me.
Yeah, so for everyone who doesn't know, actually now Miguel and Degao left Brazucas and changed over to Heresy, and replacing Eddie and Spring in Heresy there. So yeah, that's what ZUPPI was talking about with them breaking up. Quite interesting development, actually.
Yeah, I don't know what they are trying to gain with that move, but
well, I think that definitely an advantage of the teams that are doing well is that you guys don't really have many roster changes, right? You kind of have your core players that you all just kind of work with, and you just kind of stick to that group of players. Whereas I feel like the teams that are kind of on the bottom parts of the standings, I guess, all kind of keep on having players switch around, and that probably hurts in their preparation, right?
Yeah, that's definitely an issue.
So, all right,
yeah,
okay, go ahead.
Ready to talk about Southeast Asia?
Exactly, that's what I want to do as well.
So let's go ahead and take a look at the brackets for 1v1. This is only, the round of 16 is only what has been broadcast on Escape so far, the Rex. So this Saturday and Sunday, I believe, will be the rest of the tournament. But some people in chat, I know that myself and Roach know more results here, but yeah, please no spoilerino. So let's just talk about the round of 16 and particularly Suomi's performance in it. ZUPPI, you obviously lost 1-2 to MBL, and Vles was able to eke the win over Hera. Why do you think that those matches went like the way they did?
Well, obviously we prepared a lot. We played a ton of games, talking about them, thinking what to do, how we want to play them, and I guess that's the reason for Village's good performance. Also, I'm kind of disappointed that I lost to MBN. I had all the chances to win that. But...
Yeah, we will talk about the last game, the deciding game in that series a bit later. But what do you think of the map pool in Southeast Asian? How do you think that also play into your performance in the first round?
Well, some of the maps, they are nice, but I'm not really a fan of ships fighting against land units. I think that's just stupid. And I guess it's fun to watch when a demolition ship blows up a lot of units, but yeah, it's just I don't like it at all, and it's kinda annoying to play. On top of that, the pathing of the ships is really bugged on when they are moving on the shallow. So
yeah, especially with the mangrove terrain, where the ships just kind of stop or get caught in something, and that definitely does make things a bit more complicated and I guess less clean to play. But are there any maps in particular in this pool that you think are like you like, that are your favorites, and conversely, any maps that you really don't like?
Well, I think in 1v1, I really like Decentering. I like that map a lot. It's so annoying to play, but everybody's like it's annoying for everybody, and whoever can deal with it the best will win the map. Like, you need so much multitasking.
I mean, I think it's just everybody always picks Chinese because of the land nomad start.
Yeah.
And then it's just all about who can execute their early game the best, right?
Yeah, kinda, and how to follow up, because you will run out of the resources quite fast, so you need to have a nice spot.
So were all the water maps the reason that you and Vilessa played in that tournament, or was it once again just you haven't played in 2 1v1s yet, so you're playing now?
Yeah, actually on the 1v1s we were talking a lot about the maps and who plays which tournament, so this is something we decided on. Actually, I think Rubenstock was we were going to choose him to play this one, but on the last day we decided against it.
Rip Rubenstock. He would have won. You just know it.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe the next one.
So, I guess getting into your unfortunate close loss against MBL, Map 3 in particular was a pretty crazy game. I'll actually bring up this lovely little slideshow. There we go.
I guess I can.
Yeah, sorry, Roach.
No camera for me.
No camera for you right now.
That's fine.
You were banished.
We will do that later again.
Yeah.
Yeah, Robo ripped my cam, indeed.
So.
Yeah.
Roach,
go ahead.
Yeah, Roach, you can take it away.
Okay. So I obviously for people who haven't watched the game, the third game. It was the third game that was the deciding game between you and MBL. I think beforehand you had a pretty clear win on Riverbed, while he had a clear win on Hillfort, and then it came to the deciding game on Atoll. What were your thoughts going into the game? Why Malay pick instead of Vikings, for example?
Well, my plan was to like take the middle and then abuse the harbors all over the map and take out of the middle. So in the end, he will run out of gold and wood. So if I can control the middle island, I will win the game in the end.
And I mean, you tried to do that as well, but
Yeah.
At what point do you think did it go wrong or not work out as planned?
Well, one reason was that I was too careless with my own economy in my own island. I watched the wreck and I lost a lot of fields on my main island on this one gold bar. He had actually 2 longboats that were bugged inside the land. And
oh yeah, I saw that.
They were just shooting away all game long, and I felt that like I didn't really have the time to fix it. I should have done it. I lost a lot of fields on that one. And yeah, I thought it was going pretty well. Obviously my eco sucked, but I had a strong foothold on the middle and thought I would hold it, but props to NBL, I think he played it amazing.
Yeah, it was definitely a pretty crazy game. What do you think of Atoll as a map? Because I do think it's one of the more interesting maps in the pool. I think it's pretty fun to watch, at least.
Yeah, it's similar to Migration, which I like a lot, especially in the team games. I'm sure it will be a great map in 3 against 3. Like the land will be so much bigger, and there are a lot of things you can do, like different strategies. Obviously, I'm not gonna reveal what we are thinking about that map, but I think it's interesting.
Yeah, so I actually think it's a good segue into talking about the 3v3 part of the Southeast Asia, because obviously this is only the first the first half of Southeast Asia. We can't really do like predictions for the rest of the 1v1 because a lot of us already know the results, so that's kind of null. But that's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. Here's the right one. So in the Southeast Asia 3v3, you guys are up against Bazookas again in the first round. Does that like change your preparation as like these maps are concerned?
Like how do you mean? Like we try to prepare something special, or just try to find the most solid way to play, or?
So like, does the fact that you're playing against Bazookas change your preparation as far as how these maps go?
No, I don't think so. We will prepare as usual. Try to get some practice games against other teams on the other side of the bracket and test out some tactics and steal something from the enemies and stuff like that.
So, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just, I guess I wanted, well, now I lost my train of thought, so you go ahead.
It's all good. Looking at the 3v3 brackets, do you think that you have a good chance of beating Bazookas and then likely AM and then facing any of the other teams? Is there any team that you'd want to go up against in the finals? Any team you don't want to go up against?
No, not really. We can face anyone. Obviously, it would be best for us if... I think... I don't have the bracket open here, but I think Secret is on the other side, so it would be best if we would... it would be best if we would meet in the finals, because it would mean that the other teams are not gaining that many points, and we will be gaining a small lead.
Yeah, you are correct. Secret plays VNA in the first round, and then would play either of the two Chinese teams in the semifinals.
Yeah.
So after, I guess you haven't played the 3v3 event yet, and there will be some map changes in there, but looking at all the maps and all the sets you played so far, Southeast Asia, looking at the maps, your least favorite map pool or your favorite map pool, or how does it rank in comparison to the other stages?
Well, I would say it's nice to have some water maps for a change.
Alright, yeah.
Atoll and Enemy Archipelago, I think they are really interesting. Because like there you have like proper water and proper land, not a mix between the two. So I kind of have mixed feelings about it. Some of the maps are nice and some are not nice.
Well, I think that covers most of what at least I planned on asking ZUPPI in the interview. Anything else you have want to ask ZUPPI, Roach?
No, I think that basically was my last question, what I got in there. So I guess we will wrap the interview up here. Thank you very much for coming on and answering all the questions, going in detail here.
Alright, thanks for having me. It was a nice time chatting.
Yeah, no, I think it was a very enlightening interview, at least for me. Is there anything else you want to add before you head off? Any shout outs or any last words?
Yeah, sure. Torilla tavataan. It's just something for our Finnish fans who might be watching.
Oh boy.
There we go.
There's
G in the
Jupi. Oh man. Well, thank you so much, ZUPPI. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and good luck in the upcoming tournaments.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good luck. Bye bye.
So, let me. Yeah, you could hear us thinking. So now I can bring Roach back.
You have to cam again.
I can try. Uh-oh. Oh, there you are. Just have to move you a little bit.
Just a bit, yeah.
Okay, there we go. So,
Good enough.
Good. Oh, you're a little... There we go. So, oh god. Doing all the fails right here.
Oh, wonderful. That's alright, I guess.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, just some more quick thoughts, rounding everything out. What do you think of the ZUPPI's interview? What do you think? Did you learn anything? Anything interesting to you?
Yeah, I think so. I think especially some of his insights, how they approach the Civ picking and preparation. Yeah, that was quite interesting, and also how he said that he felt like they approach the preparation different now in comparison to earlier, that they thought about different aspects of the game, and that I think that's very interesting to reflect on your preparation and see, okay, we need to go at it from a different angle, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's pretty much what I got out of it. I really enjoyed just talking about the preparation and all of it, ZUPPI's thoughts on how they go about it, because I didn't really know before. So that was really cool. So what we can do is we ourselves can look at the maps and the civs and stuff, and just kind of talk about what we think will be played, I guess, in the 3v3.
Yeah, in the 3v3, yeah.
So,
I guess you're bringing up the maps now.
Yeah, I'll just bring just trying to figure out how to do this. if I just go to brackets, then I'll just do this, and then I'll do this. And okay, so sorry, we're kind of just trying to figure this out on the fly, or at least I am. So Bog Island, in the 3v3 setting, it's going to be everybody has their own island, and they just kind of fight in between. What do you think? What do you think is going to be the plan here? Everyone just goes for water and plays it like a water map.
I think it depends on the teams, right? I feel like Secret and SY might go for more that kind of approach, going for it on water there. But Frantic, for example, I could easily see trying to delay the flanks, maybe with a tower rush. I'm not quite sure how far apart those islands spawn in a 3v3. I think that in general we will see Vikings on that map picked. Quite a bit, just because once again we have mixed terrain, the mangrove terrain, and longboats are just such a strong unit there. And if you get Vikings from a pocket, you can fast castle. Even from flank with the 3 rhinos there, you might be able to fast castle.
Yeah, definitely. If I recall correctly, for Bog Islands in a 3v3, you're pretty much looking at normal distances compared to, say, like in Arabia. It's just, you know, you have your little island, so you definitely can go aggressive, and I think, like you're saying, water is going to be the name of the game for the most part, though you have to be pretty careful with demo ships, of course.
Yep. I think the big thing about Bog Islands is that, especially that you don't have that much fish, right?
Yeah.
And for the deep fish, only spawns in the middle water only part. It's quite far away, so it can be risky to even get a villager out there to build a dock. Especially in a team game setting, right? We saw it in 1v1 so far. 1v1s, it's only one scout that can catch you in the middle. And if you get loom, you're fine. But in a 3v3, you suddenly might be up against 2 scouts there. So it might be a bit more difficult, and then there isn't a lot of fish to fight over. But still, as ZUPPI said before, and as everyone basically knows, if you have those shallow terrains, water is pretty much a must, just because ships are so strong in HP and attack.
Yeah, and the I think you're referring to the hybrid terrain, the
hybrid terrain. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So moving on to Hillfort, our sole land map representative in the pool here. Do you think that? Actually, I don't know if we're doing Team Hillfort or just normal Hillfort. Like Team Hillfort would be like, you know, Team Acropolis, or if it's just everyone has their own little hill fort, I guess. What do you think it's gonna be like? Just a lot of FCs from everybody?
Yeah, I think so. In theory, you could go for a tower rush. It's kind of hard though, because the stone is really close, spawns really close towards your TC, so you won't get denied of your stone, but they're really small woodlines, so maybe towering those small woodlines of your opponent can hurt them quite a bit. I don't see that happening too much though. I think we might see quite a few castle drops actually, fast castles into castle drops. Maybe have one player go scouts or something like that to deny your enemy, to get some map control, so the opponent's team just can walk down freely from the hill and build TCs all over the map, right? You kind of need to get down from your hill if you want to expand your economy. And I think getting map control to prevent this might be worth it.
Yeah, that's certainly an interesting idea. Any civs from the civ pool that you see particularly excelling here? I feel like we're probably going to be seeing a lot of Spanish and Burmese, because you can go for your unique units quite comfortably. Indians possibly as well. Just any good late game land civ, right?
Yeah, I think those 3 civs are could see a lot of play here. I think even Chinese, depending on what other maps we see, could be decent as well. I mean, Chinese not the worst map civ for Regicide Fortress either, for example.
Yeah,
Although
Chinese,
Regicide
they're
Fortress,
not that bad on RF. You know, there are definitely worse civs than Chinese on RF.
yeah, you still get a fairly secure start as well, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You won't get lamed. The resources are fairly close to your TC in the middle as well, just because there's not a lot of space around your TC in the fort.
Yeah, certainly. So, moving on to Riverbed, a map that I've barely seen any games on. It's almost never picked, as it's such a crazy map. Notably, in team games, guys, this map becomes even crazier because you spawn in a line, essentially, kind of like a Sunburn in the previous, or no, that was 2 stages ago, but still. So you spawn in a line with like one super flank, one like middle pocket, and then one super back pocket. How do you think this changes the dynamics of how 3v3s are going to be played?
I feel like the front player, the flank player, investing more time and resources into walling is super important here. Because while in Sunburn you have a pocket that is really far back and it's hard to hit that pocket. If on Riverbed, I'm not quite sure how wide the river is and how easy it would be to snuck by demo ships. And if you hit an unprepared pocket with demo ships into their woodlines and kill a bunch of villagers, that could hurt a lot. So for the flank, trying to wall the whole river, I think is really important. And then maybe for the first pocket to have a bit more faster uptime and go for the initial attack with Navy there. It's really hard to figure out though. I haven't played it myself, and it's a hard map to figure out. And from looking at the games we've seen so far in the 1v1 stage, I feel like not a lot of teams have completely figured it out themselves there.
Yeah, I feel like we're just going to be seeing this banned most of the time.
Yeah.
Just because it's a really complicated map. And Jupi, unless something crazy happened, Riverbed should be in the team game, the 3v3 part as well. It should be Eastern Eastern Coastline.
That one is banned, yeah.
Which should not
well, not banned, it's not in the map pool, yeah.
Yeah, because there's no way to balance that, because in team games, you start with one player on the island and 2 players on the land, and that just leads to so many position wins, which is not that great. So, moving on to Atoll.
Well, what do you think about civs?
Yeah, sorry, for Riverbed.
Yeah. Chinese Indians are 2 civs that come to mind. Yeah, obviously, it always depends what other maps are played, right?
Of course. There's only so much, predicting we can do as far as what's going to be popular. But Chinese and Indians definitely come to mind. Any good water civ, I think, is going to be picked. I think that Japanese also could be a possibility. As far as like non-civ pool civs, though, because you can only have, I think 2 civ pool civs, and then 1 not civ pool civ.
Yeah. Once again, I think that Vikings isn't the worst option.
Yeah, I think Vikings would be a pretty good option. Like,
obviously, Chinese and Indians are better from the civ pool, but if you need another civ to be in there.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair bet. Just on these sorts of hybrid maps with the mangrove terrain, water units are better than land units pound for pound. So you have to play them like they're pretty much water maps, but you just have to be careful, because I think there's like, if some team goes for something kooky, like you see that the sides of the riverbed are that gray terrain, it means you can't wall it. So what if like someone in like the mega pocket goes for like a bunch of scouts, and then has like this huge run around where like they run to the top of the river bank and then they run back down like to go around the walls? Like, unless every team just invests into totally walling themselves in, but obviously that's a pretty big commitment.
Oh yeah, I don't think that's worth it to wall in everyone, especially because you're spawning in a line, right? So the sites you have to wall the sites, that's a lot of investment in villager time and resources. Yeah, I think we could see quite a few funky strategies there. Maybe trying to go the flank going for a super fast up to prevent the enemy team from walling, something like that. And just sacrificing their own eco, not to have the strongest eco to just prevent walling, but because if you can prevent the wall and you get ships in your enemy's eco, then as you said, going around with scouts, for example. But I mean, it's really tricky for land units to fight against water units.
Yeah, it's definitely tricky, and like I said, I think it's just going to be banned most of the time. But I'd really like to see some games and like how this crazy stuff plays out.
Yeah. So ZUPPI says unless the rules were changed just recently,
the handbook
that's what
is out of date. Unless, yeah.
Yeah, if you check the escape.gg site, you can see the map and civ pool as well. And currently it says riverbed and then enemy archipelago. There we go. Getting better at it. Pronouncing that day by day.
Yeah, which unfortunately we don't have a picture for, but we can talk about it.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen it before, it's a pretty crazy map. So it's going to be played instead of Eastern Coastline for the reasons that we mentioned previously, but everybody starts on an island with their opponent and only their opponent. So like there are 3 islands they're going to be, and each team has 1 player per island. So it's like you have to win like your 1v1 against your opponent for your control of your island, and then you have, you know, migrations happening where the guy who's losing is like trying to rebuild on like their teammate's island who may be winning. It's a pretty crazy map.
And while that is going on at the same time, you have to try and win water as well, right?
Exactly.
The islands aren't too big, so losing water completely is really bad. It's not that easy to lose water completely, especially because there's so much going on land as well. So no team can completely focus on water only. It's pretty insane for anyone who doesn't know. There actually was an escape event 1.5 years ago, if I remember correctly. Or is it already 2.5 years ago?
It was after Rise of the Rajas came out, which was at the end of 2016. So I think it might be 2 years ago.
Yeah. So quite some time ago. So actually, that map was played back then. I think Jordan was already back.
Jordan's always back, man.
He's always back, true.
So, yeah, I think again it's probably going to be banned more often than not.
Yeah.
In favor of the more standard maps, but I'd still be really interested to see.
I think we could see Spanish on that.
Yeah, I think Spanish are going to be good there. Japanese,
trying to go
Malay.
for a tower rush. Then especially if you get into, I'm not sure that will happen, but if you get into late game where you need trade, having Spanish could be really important because you have really short trade routes on the islands.
No, we go for trade cogs, man. It's the new future.
Sure, especially on enemy archipelago, it would be very easy to set that up.
Easy.
Malay would be another good civ there, I think, in Japanese. Malay for the fast uptime, Japanese, good water civ, could go for man-at-arms, something like that as well. Man-at-arms towers. Burmese, going towers, then getting castle up and Aram by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And Spanish, yes, they do. It's just trade units, not just trade carts.
Yeah, exactly.
So moving on to Atoll for real this time. This one, it's a little bit different as far as team games go, because as you can see in the picture here, all 3 islands are approximately the same size in the 1v1 version of this map, but in the 3v3 version of this map, there's the middle island is way bigger, and everyone kind of has their own little islands. You can think of it kind of like Migration, but you have the beach terrain connecting everybody to the mainland. This should be a pretty fun one to watch for team games. I mean, ZUPPI seemed to like it as well, right?
Yeah. I've seen it in team games before, and Neely had Atoll actually in one of his, I think, either it was Clash of the Hippo, or it was King of the Hippo 2v2 edition. So there were some team games actually happening on that map before, and it gave us some pretty good games as well. Especially because you have that mixture of migration, when migration gives very strategic games as well, right? Where you how much do you focus on water, how much do you focus on middle control, because the middle gives you additional gold stones and wood in general.
Yeah, definitely. I think migration's already one of the more interesting maps to watch in team games, and I think this should be another great map to watch. I think again, with a lot of the other water maps, Malay, Japanese, Italians for your non-civ pool civ, Vikings, anything like that.
Yeah. I think we could see maybe 2 water civs. It's kind of hard, right? Because if I'd say 2 water civs and maybe 1 civ that maybe goes a bit more for middle control, but then if you have that civ on the flank, it's really hard to hold.
Maybe like a Persians?
The water
because Persians are like fine on water in the early game.
At least initially, yeah. Persians could be. Yeah, I like the idea of Persians. I think that could be a good pick. Having the fast, obviously plus 50 food, plus 50 wood, faster working docks as well, more HP on the docks, and then for middle control, paladins, siege ram, halberdiers.
Yeah, I think that's definitely.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
Talk about strategies and transitions through the ages. Well, we're talking about that in just a greater context as well. We're not just talking about the civs. But yeah, I think that Pocket's going for some sort of FC, either probably water play and then some sort of push to the middle. And then the flank's going for aggressive water play. It just kind of makes sense.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure how... we said before, right? The middle island is bigger. It's more like migration there. But I think there's one difference to migration, in that with migration you have seen teams going for a really fast imp with one of the civs to get the water control, and then basically deny the eco on the smaller islands, deny any more villager transports to the middle island, and just hope to win water that way. I think that will be a lot harder on this map, especially just because you don't need a transport ship to go to the middle. You have that beach terrain where you can walk over, so it will be really easy for players to establish an early foothold in the middle. So I think in comparison to migration, we might see a bit more early aggression in the middle there. I guess quite a few castle drops as well to control area, maybe control some of the crossings there.
Condos as well from the Italian player. Likely there's going to be someone playing Italians. Should be pretty good as well in early Imperial Age. It's where we see condos the strongest. Main strat was Sling Mayans. Yeah, I mean it's Age of Sling the Mayans, but I don't think it's Age of Sling the Mayans on Atoll.
Flank crush into Sling.
I think one of the flanks can do that. I think, but the thing is, your flank is going to run out of resources real quick if on this map. It was for Atoll 9 out of 10 games. Only AM didn't. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I feel like it might even just be stronger to go for middle control, especially because you can only pick Mayans once, right? And I feel like there are better maps for Age of Sling the Mayans in the map pool.
What do you mean, Bog?
Yeah, actually, Bog and Hillfort come to mind in particular.
Yeah. Yeah. Once again, it depends so much what other maps were played beforehand, or what other maps will be played in the same series there.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, and that was before the heavy sling nerfs? Okay.
Yeah. So actually, speaking of Bog, it's a map we've seen a ton in the 1v1 so far. And 3v3, it should play out fairly similarly. Mongols, of course, is going to be a must-pick, just because of the faster hunt. And then beyond that should just be our typical assortment of water civs with, Malay, Japanese, Italians. Again, it depends on the other civs. But definitely, I think Mongols, they really do shine here, right?
Yeah, I think so as well. Bog, we probably saw it quite a bit just because you have a fairly standard land aspect to the whole thing.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think that everybody's going to go for water to start, or do you think that maybe the pocket makes some sort of FC play,
Mm,
or maybe someone on flank goes for land aggression because you're getting fairly close?
I think probably more that have flanks going for land aggression, trying to do that, going for towers, tower resources, tower the dock of your opponent as well, deny the fishing ships like this, and then have. I'm not quite sure with the FC. I think the pocket could still get away with an FC if you have.
It's not the hardest map to wall in the world.
Yeah, no, it's more about losing. It's more about losing your fish, right? But we see the pockets go FC on Baltic, for example, as well. It once again depends on the siphon, where your siphon is placed, right? If you get, let's say someone picks Italians for that map, you kind of want Italians to go for water, and then the pocket won't go FC, and you might see a flank going into some kind of tower rush and then FC behind that, or go for faster castle behind that.
You mean go for tower aggression and then sling? Because
or that, yeah.
Because, you know, that would be less interesting, but probably more likely.
yeah, something. Yeah, that could easily happen. Spanish. Have Spanish. You need Spanish in the Civ pool.
Yeah.
And do that. Go for tower rush on the flank then, and yeah, try to sling from that.
Sounds good. So, ignore
Descent Ring.
Yeah, ignore Eastern Coastline. It's not being played. So our last map is not Descent Ring, as I discovered. It's not actually Descent Ring. It's Decent Ring.
Decent Ring.
Because Descent has an S in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I always called it Descent Ring for years, but then I just looked at it in the map pool, and I'm like, it's actually spelled Decent Ring.
Well, maybe the creator wanted to name it Descent Ring, but fucked up the spelling, and now it's Decent Ring.
Descent Ring. It's like the scent ring.
So many possibilities there.
Oh man, but this is a really cool map for team games, right? I really like this in team games.
Yeah, I think what comes to my mind is the games between Brazil A and Brazil B Nations Cup, right? I think they played each other on that map, and they had some great maps. And something that Sci-Fly said in chat, that Mayans would be actually good for Descent Ring. I'm just going to stick with Descent Ring. I'm sorry about that. And I think that's a good point, because in team games, in comparison to 1v1, the land on the outside is it's a lot wider, right? So having water control is important, but you won't lose all land access if you have galleons standing around an Imperial Age. You will still have some land. So land control plays a way bigger role there.
Yeah, definitely. In my mind, I'm just thinking back. We saw a lot of Chinese Vikings going for the water aggression. This time it might be Chinese Italians, or Chinese Japanese, Chinese Malay, something of that nature. And then, depending on the other civ makeup, like, you know, if you have two water civs, maybe two people go for water, and then one person goes for land, or vice versa.
Yeah.
We might actually see some players choose to just send their villagers over to the land right away in a team game, whereas you just don't do that in a 1v1.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, build your TC over there.
Yeah, exactly. But other than the typical assortment of water civs, Mayan's obviously going to be, I think, pretty good here, because you start with the extra villager. So that just expedites your whole getting up and going process that much more easily.
I think you shouldn't underestimate Indians as well. With the cheaper villagers and the faster shorefish gathering, you have quite a few shorefishes around. You will place your TC on shorefish as well. They can have a pretty decent uptime, and go maybe for an early crush, and then afterwards try to get land control with camels. then again, if you're only going for cameras on the outside, you get easily countered by halberdiers, pikemen. But I think it's definitely an option that that we could see there.
Yeah, but I think this should be really cool. And I think that these maps actually, I think, work even better for team games than they do in 1v1s.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think that the 3v3 stage coming up should be really, really interesting.
Yeah. Maybe Bog is more interesting in a 1v1.
Yeah, that would be the only one I think that's better for 1v1.
Bog Island maybe as well, but the other ones in team games should be a lot of fun to watch and see what the teams will actually come with, what kind of strategies they will actually come up.
Yeah, definitely. So I think we can flip back over here. And then I do this, and then I do that, and then I just move Roach a little bit. And we're all good. Oh, we talked about Enemy Archipelago already, Hank. And yes, Enemy Archipelago will replace Eastern Coastline. That is the plan. So, any other thoughts on Southeast Asia?
Well, not exactly. I guess we could do some predictions for it.
Oh, yeah. Whoops. Oh, man, now I gotta go to the brackets, and then I gotta flip everything over.
Yeah, I'm just doing that to troll you, so you have to do more work here.
No, it's all my fault. Okay, so here we go. So, predictions time. Frantic SY, Battle of the Two Chinese Teams. Think that in 3v3, Frantic actually may have the edge over SY. I think their 3v3 team is really strong of VV and Tim and CL.
It's true, but at the same time, I feel that SY is, with those kind of maps, that SY will do better. So
yeah.
I'm actually expecting SY to pull through here.
Yeah, I think that you're right in that. I think probably SY 2-1, just because, like you're saying, the maps favor them. I think a lot.
Yeah.
I think like Hill Fort favors Frantic, but other than that, I think all of the rest of them favor SY.
Yeah.
Then because Hill Fort, you can have CL go for FC Conks or Bloom Darchers, and you know Tim can do some crazy aggression, and then VV can do VV things. But yeah, then Secret VNA should just be Secret, right?
Yeah, I agree there.
Nice and boring. AM Heresy, AM.
AM.
Man,
yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, it's basically if Brazucas could do really well against Suomi, but it's basically a decider who of Brazucas and Suomi will be in the semifinals against AM. But then again, we now have Degao and Miguel in Heresy, right? So we need to keep that in mind.
We do, but who's the third person then? Melkor? Like, Melkor doesn't really have any established synergy with them, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Nili coming up,
maybe
coming up with strategies together with them.
I mean, it's obviously a possibility, but I feel like.
But I think we need to at least keep that in mind. I think it will be closer than you would expect from just seeing AM against Heresy.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And then Brazucas versus Suomi. On paper, like historically, this would have been an amazing matchup, but Brazucas seems to just kind of be going downhill, and Suomi's only going uphill. So I think this should be a pretty decisive win, right?
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
So who do you think is going to take it overall then? Unless there's something else you wanted to add.
Yeah, no, exactly. Who will get to the finals and who will take it?
Secret Suomi again.
I kind of feel like Secret Suomi again, which would be really good for Suomi, obviously. Secret gets some point as well. They wouldn't say no to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
To secure their first place, and Suomi could score some very, very important points for themselves in the race to the second place here.
Yeah, definitely. I think that AM on on water maps, as Wall-Easy is saying, isn't really the greatest for them. I think they kind of favor the more traditional maps. You know, your Arabias, your RFs, your stuff like that.
And then in the final, Secret versus Suomi, I think this time Secret will take it then.
Yes, I agree. I think they're a bit better on like water maps, in particular.
Yeah.
Just because you have Tato and Viper, who are both incredibly good water players.
Yeah. And I do have to say, looking at Jordan's games against Miguel, I think his water execution was really clean as well. His build orders there. And he was always a player who was quite decent at water.
Definitely.
I think at his height he basically lost against the Viper because...
the Viper.
Yeah. And that were his home maps, but other than that, I think Secret has a clear advantage when it comes to the water maps.
Yep. So yeah, I think we're pretty much in agreement as far as our predictions go.
Yeah. Well, it basically comes down to the bracket, right? And the maps in general. I think with land maps, that would be our predictions would
they'll
differ
definitely
quite
change
more. Because then Frantic SY, AM Suomi, Yunbrazuka Suomi.
Like if this was Arabia only, I think that we see Frantic over SY. I think then we have a really close game between Frantic and Secret. I think AM versus Suomi might even go in favor of AM slightly.
Yeah.
I think is a very real possibility.
Yeah.
But obviously, that's going to be what we think for Southeast Asia 3v3. We'll have to see after the 1v1 stage is over. I guess looking at this here run sheet mentioned the team changes. We already talked about Miguel and Dogao splitting from Heresy or from Bazookas to go to Heresy and replacing Eddie and Spring. And then Heresy also has Land back in.
Yep.
And then Song for Chip and VNA. I doubt either of them are going to be seeing much playtime to begin with. Any other particular thoughts?
To be honest, I didn't even know that Chip was in VNA.
I remember putting his name down, but yeah, with VNA has been pretty much backed ACCM, cool, and say my name.
Well, and Stark now.
Oh yeah, and Stark.
Stark actually advanced to the second round, right? In
yes.
the 1v1. So,
but that's for 1v1.
Yeah, true. But Stark was actually, I think, a good addition for VNA. I think even in the 2v2 stage,
he did play pretty well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Who would play for Bazookas? Riot, Fire, Goku, probably.
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think so too.
But unless you have anything else you want to add, Roach, we can do a bit of Q&A real quick.
Yeah, I guess we could do some Q&A if there's anything that comes up. I would want to go back to the stream dates again. Earlier we were saying that everything will be finished up this weekend, but looking at the schedule, it will actually be the round of 8 this Saturday, and then the 9th of March, so Saturday in a week. After that, we will actually have the semi-finals and the finals. Sci-Fly. Well, it needs a lot of grooming from Ivik.
Oh, there you go.
Actually have such a nice beard.
So
that.
Yeah, so that was my bad with the schedule. But yeah, feel free to ask any questions if you guys have them in chat. I mean, probably not too many, but other than that, while people post questions, Um, anything else you want to add? Um, KOTD2 and NAC2 both happened. Both were great.
Oh yeah, both were great. We actually met in Hamburg.
Yes,
we didn't
did.
get to talk. We didn't get to talk a lot because it was already kind of late when we met.
Yeah,
in the
it was
evening.
like 2 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a very, very short conversation. You obviously were busy casting at the apartment there. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Nice to see how well NAC2 did there, and gives a lot of hope for the future, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It was just a fantastic event all around. Like,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it, being there and getting to hang out with everybody, and I think I became a lot better as a caster because of it, just with all of the concentrated casting and hosting and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. There were also a lot of Dutch people, Sci-Fly, so you can't really complain, can you?
Lol.
Yeah. Well, then we also have we had the announcement for Hidden Cup 2.
Yeah, that just happened. I've been
Recently.
playing the maps a little bit, and I like the map pool a lot.
Yeah. It will happen the first or
April.
second weekend of April, probably the second, 14th, something like that, I have in mind.
I don't remember, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I think with the map pool as saying that, I find it kind of interesting. I think they had a different approach to the sheep, right? You don't have the sheep right beneath your TC, but you
They're a bit
already have one of the
closer.
sheep. I think one of the sheep is already in your possession, but it's a bit further away from the TC, so Chinese gets slightly nerfed again. If I remember correctly, that is.
The boars are too strong?
Now, Sci-Fly is trolling Robo.
Oh, okay.
Because Robo played against T90 and lost 3 villagers to 1 boar.
Ripperino.
Yeah, Robo sucks.
Yeah, that is known. That's just a fact of life.
Yeah, so yeah, Sci-Fly is agreeing with that. I think it's kind of interesting. That's another good idea to actually do that because getting the sheep right under the TC had quite a few balance implications as well, right? Chinese got a lot stronger. Incas kind of lost their bonus a bit.
Yeah, I think this
Yeah,
is a good
so-
compromise between the default and what we saw in KOTD2. I think KOTD2 did a lot of experimental stuff, and not all of it worked out perfectly, but I think that overall the tournament still did really well and was a really good showcase of, who's the best Arabia players. I think that when you looked at the final four of, what was it, Yo, Vivi, Viper, MBL? Or Leary, of course.
No, Leary, yeah.
I think saying that those four are the best current 1v1 Arabia players is a pretty reasonable statement.
Yeah, I guess you could have MBL in there, but
You could have MBL in there, but it was just MBL versus Leary, right? So
yeah,
it could have just been MBL instead of Leary.
yeah. True.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. It's one of the starting 4 in possession, and then the other 4 just spawn in a group of 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, yeah, other than that, just a Hidden Cup coming up, as well as ECL. I think we're having a little bit more of a break. It's been pretty crazy the last couple months or so. This is kind of a little bit of a breather in the Age of Empires tournament.
Yeah. Well, we have ECL going on, but it's not ECL and NAC, ECL and King of the Desert, right?
Yeah.
There will be a bit over 1 month before Hidden Cup then starts.
Yeah, Robo, you suck.
Someone was talking shit.
Oh yeah. Lol.
It's actually clipped as well.
Classic.
Oh, feels bad, man.
He definitely doesn't suck. Oh, perfect. So, I think with that, since there weren't really any questions, I think we had a pretty comprehensive podcast.
Yeah,
I think
so.
we're ready to wrap it up. Any last thoughts on everything we talked about today, my good man?
Not particularly, no. But yeah, interesting interview.
Yeah, definitely. Like we were saying, I think it was really interesting to hear about Suomi's thought process and how they planned for everything and their thoughts on all the maps and stuff. Well, ZUPPI's thoughts in particular, but yeah, I thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
Good chat. Thanks everyone who tuned in. Yes, a few technical difficulties, but we're improving every time. I think there wasn't really any sound issues, so that was a plus. Yeah, I think that we'll head off. I don't actually have the ability to host anybody because I don't have that Twitch account. So go watch another Age of Empires stream. Just go ahead and do that, and we'll see you guys next time, probably after Southeast Asia 3v3 concludes. So thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Yep. Thanks, guys. See ya.